It is
Thank you.
2:02. I will call our meeting to order. I'm Barbara Meister, the Public Affairs Director at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and your MST Measure X Oversight Committee Chair. So I would like to call the meeting to order and ask Maria if you would take roll.
Go ahead and come on back.
Chris, I'm going to.
League of Women Voters, Representative Janet Brennan.
Here.
Alternate Howard Fosler.
Be there for a minute as it closes.
Salinas Valley Taxpayers Association, Kevin Dayton.
Here.
Alternate Rick Giffen. Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association, Tom Raleigh.
Here.
Alternate Rick Hewer.
Here.
Senior or Disabled Service Agency, Kayla Bumba. Alternate Teresa Sullivan. Bicycling Advocate, Victoria Beach.
Here.
Alternate Claire Rigg. Transit users, Jesus Valenzuela. Alternate Andrea Monzo. Labor Organization, Rod Smalley.
Hello.
Alternate Glenn Schaller. Central Coast Builders Exchange, Cliff Asnatch. Alternate Chris Odell. Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, John Hoot. Alternate John Bailey. Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, Jonathan Geisler.
Here I am, present.
Okay, alternate Monica Lau.
Present.
Habitat Preservation, Scott Waltz. Alternate Rachel Saunders.
Present.
Hospitality, Barbara Meister.
Here.
Okay, Agriculture, Norm Group.
Present.
Alternate Paul Arnotto.
Here.
Education Representative Joshua Jorn. Alternate Jared Garaf or Patrick Diebert. South County Representative Paula Getzelman.
Here.
Alternate Carol Kenyon. Latino Organization Chris Barrera.
Here.
North County Representative Ron Rader. Alternate Scott Freeman. Pedestrian Representative Robin Lee.
Here.
Alternate Lori Ivy. Youth College Representative Natalie Olivas. Alternate Gabriela Ulloa. Construction Representative Sean Hebert.
Here.
Alternate Keith Severson.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, we have a quorum.
Great. All right. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here today. We'll begin the meeting with public comments. If there's any member of the public who's tuned in today, they may address the committee on any issues not on the agenda and have up to 3 minutes to address the committee. Are there any members of the public here who would like to contribute to public comment? Just raise your hand, your digital hand. I do not see anyone. Do you, Teresa?
No, Barbara.
Okay, then I will close our public comment period. And let's move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes our draft minutes of our last meeting of February 15th. I'm hoping all of you've had a chance to review those. Are there any need to pull the item off of the consent agenda, I guess is my question.
The only thing I saw looking at them is the word interesting is capitalized at one point. I don't think it's a big deal, but that was the one I did read them over.
Okay. Any other discussion on the consent agenda?
So moved to accept.
Move approval.
Okay. All of those agreement with the approval of the consent agenda?
Was
Please.
that, I'm sorry, was that Tom
Yes.
and seconded by, who was that again?
Paula,
Paula, okay. Thank you.
Or was that Ron?
It's okay. We got it approved.
Okay, we have to vote yet, but thank you, Maria, for slowing me down there. It's important that we capture our activities correctly here. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, signify by raising a physical hand or a thumbs up or a digital hand. All right, the majority approves, then the motion passes. All right, we have two items on our regular agenda. One is to receive a presentation on the Measure X projects in the city of Marina. And the other item is to present our Measure X fourth year audit report, which I'll be doing after we hear from the city of Marina. So with that, Teresa, do you want to introduce our guest speaker today?
So I would like to introduce you to Idri de Santos. He is the engineer for the city of Marina, and he's going to talk to you about their Measure X funded Reservation Road project and also the upcoming engine project. So Idri, I'll just let you go ahead and take over from here. Thank you so much for being here and presenting to this committee. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, committee members, for having me today. I'm going to share my screen really quick and turn off my video for the sake of bandwidth here. So I'll briefly be presenting today on a few of our Measure X projects that we've done in the last about year. Our Reservation Road cold in place recycling, our current 3-phase pavement restoration project, and then of course, as Teresa mentioned, the Engine Parkway widening project. The first being, there we go, on Engine Parkway. It's been historically a project that needed some significant rehabilitation. We've had areas where stormwater ponding has caused the roadway to narrow, caused pavement to lift. Because of high speeds on this corridor, we needed to figure out ways to control speeding. We also had really narrow shoulders that we needed to widen. There was lots of various issues that we had to fix on this corridor. And of course, this is going to be the corridor that most traffic will be taking as Engine Parkway. That project gets online, that would be a 2-year project. So Reservation Road is going to be heavily used. We need to make sure that it's in a good working condition when engine starts kicking the gear. What we did was we utilized a very special type of pavement rehabilitation treatment. It's called cold in place recycling. What this does, it utilizes the existing pavement that's there, mixes it with a special emulsion and binding agent, and then puts the same pavement down and which strengthens it and also provides a new structural section for us. So in essence, it cuts down on any type of off-hauling off-site. I believe we have a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions just because we do not have any off-hauling of the grindings from the roadway. We utilize everything on site. You can see in the top picture on the right there, we have a grinder grinding the actual roadway. And then we have a mixer truck, emulsion tanker, that mixes it with this emulsion binder. We have these mixing machines here and here that puts it in a conventional pavement hopper, and that we have the roller behind it laying down the pavement right behind it. Instead of having a 2 to 3 hour delay on pavement cooling, we had traffic moving on the roadway within an hour. It was a moving traffic control operation, so we never closed Reservation Road at the same time. Reservation Road is a major arterial, has 22,000 cars a day. We wanted to make sure that we had an efficient project that kept traffic flowing Finally, the final product was we had a road where 30% of it was failing. Now we have a road that has an extended 20-year life expectancy. We have 79% reduction in greenhouse gases. And I believe almost a 40% cost savings in comparison to a regular mill and fill asphalt overlay project. So overall, the project itself was extremely successful. We received an APWA, or America's Public Works Association Award of the Year. We received a TAMSI Project of the Year award. Really great project. We look forward to doing more cold in place recycling projects in the future. Our next 3-phase project we're doing right now, well, actually Flower Circle is a test bed. We adopted a lot of old army streets where the street pavement section was only about an inch thick. After 70 years, that 1 inch of roadway gets pretty much pummeled away. So a lot of our courts, much like Flower Circle, requires full depth reclamation, or in essence, the entire roadway section needs to be removed and replaced. For this specific road, we had utility relocations, ADA ramp improvements, lots of improvements that we needed to do to this. And we wanted to make sure with this test bed for Flower Circle, we did it correctly and figure out how much it costs, as we're going to discuss later, moving forward with more projects just like Flower Circle in our next couple of fiscal years with Measure X funding. You can see here, we actually went down about 8 to 10 inches, taking out the roadway, replacing it with a brand new roadway section. And this is what Flower Circle looks like today. The second phase that we're conducting today, it actually starts today on the 19th, is microsurfacing of, I think, 14 street locations, various ADA ramp improvements. What microsurfacing is, it's a lot like a slurry seal where it puts a new coat on the surface of the pavement rather than doing a full section of hot mix asphalt. The coating itself will preserve the life of the pavement, but the difference between a slurry seal and microsurfacing, like we have here, microsurfacing tends to dry faster. So vehicles could drive on it a lot faster. And we use this usually on our collector streets and arterial streets where we have a lot more traffic and we need the roads to open up quicker. So that's happening today. I believe it's going to last for the next 2 months. Our slurry seal that we did in the beginning of the year and late last year, we coordinated with Marina Coast Water District, who was already doing a slurry seal project for various streets they were doing improvements on. By teaming up with Marina Coast Water District, we saved about 40% in our overall project costs due to economy of scale and utilizing their contract procedures rather than our own. We were able to tackle, I think it was over 20 different streets with our slurry seal. So it was a really great last fiscal year, accomplishing almost 40 different streets for resurfacing using Measure X funding. Now getting into Imgen Parkway. So the Imgen Parkway project, if you're not familiar with it, it's taking Imgen Parkway from Reservation Road to Imgen Road over by the college, widening it from 2 lanes or 1 lane in each direction to 4 lanes, then adding 4 new roundabouts to the intersections shown here. Here we have, I think this is Preston, Abrams, Marina Heights Drive, and then Imgen Road. The life of a project of this size is significant. From preliminary engineering, we have plans and specifications. We had CEQA and NEPA clearance. We used federal funds. We had right-of-way acquisitions. There's a lot to a project of, with $40+ million to accomplish. Currently, we're in the stage trying to get our incidental take permit for a special species of in Monterey County. So we're working with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife in order to accomplish that. Their backlog at CDFW is about a year, which is why we had to request an extension from the California Transportation Commission for this project. But we're hoping to start this project later this year with CDFW sign off. Finally, if you have any questions specifically about any of our projects, Imgen Parkway, our street projects, they're all on the city website. They have their own web pages. And then coming up in fiscal years 22 through 24, our city council just approved this orange line here. What that orange line means is there's a significant amount of funding that they've put into the project. I believe it's something in the range of $14 million in the next 2 years to achieve a pavement condition index, or PCI, overall system-wide of 70 PCI. That's the statewide goal, and that's the city goal that we adopted almost 10 years ago. It requires a significant amount of capital that we'll be utilizing various methods of full depth reclamation, cold in place recycling, regular mill and fill processes. I believe 26 streets will have a full reconstruction. We have, I think, 40 more streets that are going to have slurry seal and microservicing, very large projects going online. We're hiring right now a pavement management program director to just run these projects for the next 2 years because of the scope and size of these projects. But we're very excited that council approved this. The next 2 years in the city of Marina is going to be really busy. And if you have questions regarding what streets are going to be resurfaced and when, we have a web page for that under the Public Works Department, street maintenance. These get updated with traffic control, street closures. Citizens could go there to see when their streets are going to get slurried or overlaid or treated. We also have our phone numbers, email addresses on this web page, so we could answer questions from the public whenever they come in. That ends my presentation. Open to any questions.
Wonderful. All right. And tell me again how to pronounce your name. Is it Edry?
You nailed it, Edry.
Okay.
Nicely done.
All right. Wow, this is exciting. We'll open the floor up for questions and comments, but I get the first one. The cold in place recycling, is that, it feels like a new concept to me. Is that new technology? It's been around. Rod's telling me no, I'm just behind the times.
No, it's been around for maybe about a decade. It's new enough that Caltrans hasn't officially adopted it into their standard specifications, but we were able to get a draft specifications through our Caltrans reps and utilize that to do the project. So yeah, it's a fairly new type of I forget the terminology they use, but a type of pavement recycling, and especially as we get into more grant funding opportunities through the state, projects like this become a lot more competitive. And so we're hoping to utilize this type of pavement management in the future. Pavement.
Perfect. And last question for me, who's doing that work for you? Who's contracted to do it?
So this project, we contracted with Kimley Horn to do the design. There's only 3 or 4 contractors in the state that actually could do this kind of work. Thankfully, Granite Rock is a local contractor from San Jose, and so they did this project for us.
Got it. All right, Kevin, you're next.
Yes, my question is, when you're collaborating to dig once with Marina Coast Water District, is that work related to the Regional Urban Water Augmentation Project? And my related question is, there's work going on the side of Imgen Road right now. Is that Regional Urban Water Augmentation Project construction as well, or is that something else?
Yes and yes. Actually, first one is yes. Second, it's they are constructing a new water tank over by the CSUMB, and so they're rerouting some of their water lines, and one is at the intersection near California Avenue on Imgen Parkway.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
All right, Victoria.
Okay. Sorry, I've just got to figure out the buttons. I just had a question to follow up on what Barbara was asking, Edry. I thought I had heard about this technology with the cold roll a while ago, not that long ago though, and I thought it was like a local or a California firm that invented it, and I just was curious if you knew.
I'm not sure if they invented it, but I know Granite Rock is spearheading the work with the California Department of Transportation to get it into their standard specification so it can be used more often.
Yeah, it was not Granite Rock that I read. I read a lot. It was like a local entrepreneur or maybe just a California entrepreneur. And I just thought, okay, this guy, that was really smart.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to see it kind of finally catching hold. I mean, not that I thought it would be a problem, but it's a really amazing invention. All right, that's all. Thank you.
All right, next up, Norm.
Sure, thanks. Related to the Imjin Parkway project, I think I heard you say that there was right-of-way issues that were still unresolved. Is that correct?
No, right-of-way acquisition is completed.
Okay.
In fact, the entire project is completed. The only thing that we're waiting for now is on the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, getting an incidental take permit. Their current queue, I think the last time we talked to them was 18 projects deep. They are staffing up from what they last told us, so we're hoping to get further up in line. But right now we're waiting in queue for CDFW to sign off on our project.
Overly familiar with that process. So the other question related to that is how are I assume there's going to be bike lanes along Imjin on both directions. Are those going to be manageable in 4 roundabouts to provide safety for those bike riders?
So let me show, let's see. It's a little hard to see here, but
Yeah,
what we
exactly.
have, so we have actually off-road connections. So if we have class 2 bike lanes, on-road bike lanes, and as they approach the roundabout, we have a class 1 pathways that allow bicyclists to get off the road and travel on their own pathway around the roundabout rather than going right through it.
Okay, that's what I couldn't tell from these diagrams. That's fine, thank you. And then lastly, just a comment, there's some fairly significant potholes out on Imjin right now. I'm just wondering if we could get some filler in those for the time being.
Yes, our team is on that. In fact, today I believe they're filling or doing dig outs, which is the reconstruction potholing on Reservation Road. You'll probably run into their traffic control. So yes, we are vigorously trying to tackle all the potholes and pavement repairs before our project goes online later this year.
So I guess my next question is, that was resurfaced within the last 5 years, and just wondering if that was a failure of the resurfacing, or was that just because it was one of those thin coats over the existing asphalt? So
Imjin Parkway, the last time it was treated was 2014. So it was about 8 years ago. And failures on various areas may occur over an 8-year period on a road that receives almost 30 plus thousand traffic cars a day. So most likely it's just the regular wear and tear in a highly used expressway corridor.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you answering my questions.
All right, and let's hear it for service, Norm. You bring up a problem, Edry's on it. Getting those potholes done. Other questions or comments or contributions here? I've got one additional one then, Edry. On the PCI projects and goals there, could you refresh our knowledge of how is that being funded?
So our payment management program is funded through Measure X, through SB1 funding, gas tax, and the large push for this coming fiscal year is through general fund contributions. So the city has come into various purchasing agreements, and they're able to dedicate a large, I think it was 14 million in the next couple of years, just a lot of it from general fund. So yeah, that's how we're able to accomplish this huge push in the next 2 fiscal years.
So does that represent what we pay attention to here in our oversight team, the maintenance of effort by the city?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it's not Measure X funds for the street paving. It's 14 million from general fund.
I believe it's 14 million from general fund and then our regular Measure X funding. I do believe there's a bonding going on as well for upfront, but I'll need to check back with my director on that one. Yeah, it just recently passed, so, and he took it to council. I didn't take it to council, so I don't know the full ins and outs and the full dollar amounts, but I could get that for you if you'd like.
Okay, anyone else have insight on that?
The city is moving forward with bonding their Measure X revenues in order to do all this construction, which gets their pavement condition increased. So over the long term, hopefully reduces their life cycle costs for pavement management by this early investment. So a big part of this push is Measure X and bonding that for the work.
Great, thanks for that insight. And lastly, Keith, if you're, did you recall Victoria's question, which I thought was interesting? Where did this entrepreneurial technology come from to do the cold in place recycling? Keith, do you know? Keith Sorensen?
Hi there. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry. Pulled over to the side of the road. I do not know who the inventor was. I do know that we have, in fact, been very much on the forefront of trying to get this done with Caltrans. Dennis McElroy, our project engineer for most of our cold in place recycling, has been on all of the technical committees. And it was really just to get it even to this juncture has been a big win for Granite Rock, and I think for agencies, more importantly, to really leverage their existing infrastructure and to reduce greenhouse gases in the process of reclaiming the asphalt that's already paid for and down there. So we have done a number of these jobs. We did Highway 1 up in San Mateo by Pigeon Point, 10 miles each side. We've done a number in Napa. We did River Road some years ago, another TMC award-winning project. So I'm super stoked that you guys have utilized this technology to the best of your ability. And I am sorry, Victoria, I do not know the answer to who invented it.
Okay, that'll be your homework for next meeting, Keith.
Okay, I'm on it.
It's exciting. Whenever we can, share those stories, elevate those stories. Congratulations on your award. And thank you for bringing this technology to commercializing it, Keith. It's exciting when you hear things like that. So thank you all. Any other questions or comments for Edri? If not, we thank you, Edri, for being with us today and sharing with us your progress and the good news. And congratulations on getting your city council to invest in upgrading your PCI to 70. That'll be great. Lots of good things happening in Marina, so keep it up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, next on our agenda is your chair, me, that is. Let me share my screen when I can figure out how to get there. 1 second, please. Okay, yes, next item on our agenda is the presentation of our Measure X annual audit report. This is our 4th report, if I am correct. You all received this in the packet. I'm showing it on the screen. This report is embedded in TAMC's annual report to be coming out soon, I believe. Some of you can update us on that. You saw this at our previous meeting, the draft of it. It begins with some general context and text here that I wrote along with our committee of Paula Getzelman and Natalie Olivas and Victoria, and Jason Geisler was part of this as well. This is the key part of the report, which is reviewing the efforts by each of the jurisdictions on oversight on how much funding they received. Did they complete their reports to us? Did they comply? And particularly critical is that question of maintenance of effort, and that's why I was asking Edri about that. What we found, Carmel by the Sea and Sand City both have challenges on the maintenance of effort because I believe the size of their budget. And Mike, I'm going to ask you to highlight for us again what's going on here. Greenfield is delayed, or was delayed, is still delayed, I think, in their submission of their reports. And so they are showing up here as the one jurisdiction that is behind on managing and stewarding their dollars appropriately. So I want to ask Mike if you could add any other additional insight to what's going on with Greenfield and remind us of the situation with Carmel and Sand City on their maintenance of effort.
Certainly, thank you. For the city of Greenfield, as you can see on the chart, they were delinquent in submitting their annual compliance report, which is comprised of several different reports, like a 5-year program of projects, their pavement conditions, their independent audit of their financials, as well as a report on their Measure X expenditures for the past year with before and after pictures. So what we did receive from the city was their independent audit that confirmed that they were following all the proper accounting procedures for managing Measure X funds, as well as met their maintenance of effort requirement. But we did not receive the support reports from the city, the supporting reports. I have discussed this with the city of Greenfield contract engineer, and it's my understanding that he has all of the information to submit the report. We just have not received it yet. So I spoke with him a few weeks back, and we still have not received the report. So just at a staff level, I'll follow back up with him to make sure that we get this completed. But until we actually have received the report, I've had a chance to review it and make sure that it meets all the compliance requirements. Their Measure X disbursements will continue to be withheld. For Carmel, their issue with the maintenance of effort was that their maintenance of efforts, I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but in general, their maintenance of effort requirement, what they needed to spend on transportation improvements, I believe was about $550,000. They came up a little bit short of that in their spending. The city's response in their report said that since they did not spend Measure X funds, that they did not need to meet their maintenance of effort requirement. But that's not what the funding agreement or the ordinance says. The funding agreement that the city has with TAMC or the Measure X ordinance, regardless of whether or not jurisdiction spends Measure X funds, they are required to meet their maintenance of effort as a condition of receiving their disbursements. So we've relayed that response back to the city, and we're waiting a follow-up with city staff to be able to continue those discussions. As I mentioned before, the way that we've rectified this in the past with other cities, like when Pacific Grove ran into this issue, was that they just needed to make up the difference in expenditures for what they were short while still meeting their current year maintenance of effort to get back into compliance. With Sand City, with their maintenance of effort, this has been a multi-year effort to get them back into compliance. They were out of compliance the prior year as well. The primary issue here is that the maintenance of effort for Sand City is a little over $400,000 is what they have to spend, but the amount of Measure X funds that they receive is quite a bit smaller than that, about $32,000. And the city has had quite a bit of turnover as well with city managers and their city clerk who had done a lot of the auditing and accounting for the city. So we've been attempting to work with city staff to try to get some additional information for them. They were also looking to the state to try to coordinate with the state controller's office to update their street and road reports where they report all of this information to the state as to what their general fund transportation expenditures are. So that is still an ongoing effort that the city is trying to update their information with the state controller, which would in turn have an impact on what their Measure X maintenance of effort is. We, at this point, the city will be coming up on the 2 years of being out of compliance, where they would then lose their maintenance of effort from the prior year. So this will be an issue that just at a staff level, we'll be coordinating with the city to try to get this resolved, so we can try to at least avoid that outcome if it's possible.
And remind me, Mike, if it's more than 2 years, what happens?
If a jurisdiction, regardless of what the compliance issue is, if they are out of compliance for over 2 years, that their Measure X funds that have been withheld are then redistributed to the jurisdictions that are in compliance.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that explanation again. So committee, are there any other questions or comments about our audit report? Kevin?
Yes, I see from our last meeting minutes, two things that people asked for was a 1-page document showing the 4 years of charts, and also sending a thank you letter to the cities who fully complied. I wondered if anything had been done regarding those two. I don't know if they were directives or just things that were listed as mentioned during the discussion at the last meeting.
Go ahead, Molly.
So I can speak to the letters. We did send letters out to all of the jurisdictions to let them know about their compliance status. So the ones that were in compliance were thanked for getting all of their reports turned in and letting them know that they were in compliance to move forward this year. And for the cities that were not in compliance, we'd let them know what the issues were and what the steps to rectify them are.
Teresa, did you want to add to that? Kevin's question about the 4 years on one single piece of paper?
We haven't moved forward on that, so that is something that we can present at the next meeting if you'd like.
Would that be helpful, Kevin?
Yeah, well, maybe it's too sensitive to do, but I think it would be good, for the ones that have been compliant all 4 years in particular, I think there's something to be said for telling them, thank you for obeying this, and here's actual accounting for what you've done. Send out the letter with the chart attached showing the 4 years. Obviously, we've got every year we've got a couple of non-compliant cities, and we've got some that are doing it repeatedly. And my guess is that this sort of thing goes on with some governments all the time in every single aspect of their operations. And I'm very pleased that the Measure X Oversight Committee makes these local governments accountable for actually doing what the taxpayers asked them to do in the first place.
Todd.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, on the 4-year summary, we're coming up on 5 years of Measure X, and I think it's a really good time to reflect on what's been accomplished with the funds that have been received. So that's what we talked a little bit as staff at the 5, not that we couldn't do a 4-year chart right now, but at the 5-year point, take some extra effort to reflect on what we've succeeded so far.
I have to say, back when I remember Tom Rowley and Rick Ewer back in 2016, the Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association board talking about this, and certain people asserting that governments wouldn't be following it. And one thing I wanted to do as a member of that board was to make sure that those claims did not come true. And this committee is making them accountable when they don't do it. The people who made those comments were correct. And I don't want to I think we set a good lesson for others about how to spend your money. And these charts, I think, are a great product of what this committee is doing.
All right, thumbs up from Tom Rowley. Any other comments or questions about?
I did, Barbara. You had asked me to give a timeline. So where we are in the process right now is our graphic designer is finishing the Spanish translation and design for our annual report. She should have that done by the end of this week, and then we will move forward with working with the printer to get this printed. So you all should expect to see this arriving in your mailboxes the last part of May. So that's where we are in the process.
Okay, great. And I need to present this on behalf of you all next Wednesday at the TAMC full board meeting, correct, Teresa? Okay, so I will be doing that and invite anybody else to join me in that role. Any other comments or questions on this? If not, thank you. And I think that's a great idea, Kevin, to think about our 5-year audit report as looking back at all 5 years and the trend line over time and how those cities have done. So yeah, let's hold that thought, and or if you could make sure that idea is reflected in our minutes, so we come back to that a year from now. And Jonathan, I apologize, I called you Jason. So I want to thank again the audit subcommittee, Paula, Jonathan, and Natalie for helping to put that, and Victoria for helping put that together earlier in the year. Okay, with that
I've been called worse.
Have you? All right, well, I don't want to be that person, so I will claim my mistakes when I make them. So with that, we've got one other item, and that's any announcements. Any announcements to make? Teresa, Todd, Mike?
So just the reminder that the next meeting is going to be on August 16th. It's at 2 o'clock. It will be virtual like we're doing now. And so that's what we'll do going forth. And then we'll let you know if there are any changes, whether we transition to hybrid. But right now, the plan is to continue to do this virtually.
Could I clarify, Teresa?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Be virtual unless we're not allowed to by the state. We don't know actually by August whether the state of emergency will be withdrawn that allows us to continue to be virtual. So we'll have to play it by ear, but we'll let everyone know in plenty of time.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, sounds good. Great. 2:45. I think this was our fastest meeting ever. So thank you for a tight agenda. Thank you for your questions and comments and input. And with that, I will call the meeting to a close. We are adjourned.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.